My wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I don't love you anymore." I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I picked up my keys, walked out of the house we built together, and never looked back. 1 year later, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe, saying she'd made a mistake, that she wanted me back. Folks, Uncle Mickle here. And let me tell you something. You think you're ready for a moment like that, but you're not. Before I get into this, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from, and what time it is right now. And if stories like mine hit you where it hurts, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Helps Uncle Mickle keep bringing you the truth nobody else wants to talk about. All right, let me take you back to the beginning, before that sentence cracked my life in half. I wasn't some perfect husband, but I was a steady man. You know the type. Lunchbox in the truck bed, same steel-toe boots for years, clock in, clock out, bills paid, lights on, fridge not empty. Her name was Laura. We'd been married 15 years. We had a small 3-bedroom house on a quiet street, a maple tree out front that dropped leaves I complained about every fall, and a couch that had seen more Sunday football and takeout pizza than I care to admit. We weren't glamorous. We were just normal. She taught middle school English. I worked maintenance at a manufacturing plant. We had our routines. Wednesday night grocery run, Friday night takeout and a movie. Sunday mornings, she liked to sleep in while I made coffee and pretended I knew how to cook breakfast. If you'd asked me then, I would have told you we were fine. Not perfect, not movie-level romantic, but solid, dependable. I thought, this is what marriage is supposed to look like. That's the first lie I didn't know I was telling myself. Solid doesn't mean safe. I remember one night in particular. I got home later than usual. There'd been an issue at the plant, and I had to stay back and help fix a line. I walked in, tired, smelling like oil and metal, expecting to see Laura on the couch grading papers, one of those crime shows playing in the background. Instead, the house was quieter than usual. Too quiet. Her laptop was open on the coffee table, but she wasn't there. No TV, no music. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of that cheap clock we bought from Target when we first moved in. I called out, "Laura?" She answered from the bedroom, voice flat. "Yeah, I'm here." I walked down the hall, and I saw it. Not something big. Not some dramatic scene. Just her, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone like it had swallowed her whole. She locked the screen a little too fast when I stepped in. You know that guilty thumb movement? That quick flick like the phone's on fire? She forced a small smile. "You're home late." I told her about the broken line, the overtime, the headache I had. She nodded, but her eyes weren't on me. They kept drifting back to that phone like a magnet was pulling them. I remember thinking, she's just tired. Long day with kids. That's what I told myself. But there was this tiny knot in my chest. Just a little one. A whisper, not a scream. I didn't understand it then. She got up, brushed past me, kissed me on the cheek. It wasn't cold. It wasn't warm either. It was mechanical. Like a habit, not a choice. One sentence from that night still echoes in my head. She said, "You know, Mick, people change. That's not always a bad thing." At the time, I laughed it off. "Change how?" I asked. She just shrugged, looking at the closed bedroom window. "Just change." That line. People change. I didn't know it yet, but that was the first crack in the wall. I brushed it away. I went back to my routine. Work, bills, dinner, sleep, repeat. But from that night on, the house felt different. Not all at once. Not in some big dramatic way. Just a half-second delay before she answered me. A little more time spent scrolling on her phone. A little less time with her legs thrown across my lap on the couch. Something small is still something. I told myself I was imagining it. That's what a lot of us do, isn't it? We feel the shift, but we talk ourselves out of it because the truth is heavier than denial. I wish I could tell you I listened to that first whisper, but I didn't. And the next sign was loud enough that even a stubborn man like me couldn't pretend not to hear it. That, my friends, was the moment my solid marriage stopped being solid at all. Looking back now, I realize how easy it is to miss the small things when you trust someone. You don't go searching for cracks in the foundation when you believe the house will stand forever. And for 15 years, I believed that. Life kept moving. Weeks rolled into months. Same routines, same schedules, but something in the air had shifted. Like a house after a storm when everything still looks fine, but the doors don't close the same anymore. Laura started picking up new habits. Harmless on the surface. That's what I thought then. She got into jogging after work. Signed up for a gym membership. Started wearing new perfume. The kind that lingers in the room long after she walks out. Don't get me wrong. A woman taking care of herself isn't a crime. But when she starts doing it without you, quietly, privately, you feel it. She'd come home later, saying she grabbed dinner with coworkers. The first few times, I didn't think twice. I heated leftovers, watched the game, waited. She'd walk in smiling, cheeks flushed, hair a little wind-tossed like she'd been outside more than inside. And every time, her phone stayed face down on the table. Always face down. I didn't understand it then, but I felt a chill each time that screen lit up, and she ignored it like it was nothing. Because when something is nothing, you don't hide it. One night, we were sitting at the kitchen table. I made lasagna, her favorite. She barely touched it. Just pushed noodles around with her fork, like she was waiting for something else, someone else. I asked, "Everything all right? You seem distracted lately." She didn't look at me. Just sighed long and tired. Then she said something that stuck like a thorn under my skin. "Maybe we just want different things now, Mick." I laughed it off again, trying to keep things light. "What things?" I asked. But she didn't answer. Just stood up, rinsed her plate, and went to the living room. That was the first night she slept facing away from me. Funny how you remember tiny details, like the way fabric wrinkles on her side of the bed, the slow rise of her back as she breathed, just out of reach. We used to fall asleep tangled together like vines. Now she clung to the edge like the space between us was an ocean. I reached out once, just to place a hand on her shoulder. She flinched. Not violently, just a small pull forward, as if even my touch felt heavy. Distance doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with inches. Still, I convinced myself it was stress. School was rough that year. New principal, bigger classes, budgets cut. She complained about it at dinner sometimes, voice sharp with frustration. I tried to be supportive. Told her she was strong, that she'd handle it like she always did. She smiled, but not at me, through me. Like her mind was somewhere else entirely. The first real warning sign came on a Saturday morning. She said she had a teacher planning workshop downtown. Normally we'd spend weekends together, yard work, grocery runs, lazy afternoon naps. But she dressed up more than usual that day. A new blouse. Makeup done soft and subtle. The kind she wore when she wanted to impress someone without looking like she was trying. Teacher workshop. I repeated. She nodded fast, too fast. Kissed my cheek. Grabbed a tote bag. And left before I could say another word. I watched from the window as she walked to the car. Phone to her ear. Smile on her face. The kind I hadn't seen in weeks. Not for me, at least. I stood there for a long time, coffee cooling in my hand, watching the empty driveway like it might give me answers. I remember whispering to myself, something's wrong, but I don't want to know the truth yet. And that's the painful part. I wasn't ready to face what I already felt. But the universe has a way of revealing what we refuse to see. Not gently, never gently. Because a week after that Saturday, I found something. A small thing. A harmless thing, at least. It looked harmless. But it changed everything. The kind of thing that makes your stomach drop and your heart beat like a war drum. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. That was the beginning of the end. It was a Wednesday evening. Funny how the most ordinary days become the ones you never forget. I got home early for once. The plant closed 2 hours ahead for maintenance, and I thought, maybe tonight we can have dinner together like we used to. I even stopped by her favorite bakery and picked up those little lemon tarts she loved. When I walked into the house, it was quiet again. Not unusual, but not comforting either. I called out for her, no answer. Her car was in the driveway. Lights off. Shoes by the door. So she was home. I set the tarts on the kitchen counter and headed upstairs. Our bedroom light was on, door halfway closed. A soft glow spilling through the crack. I pushed it open gently. Laura wasn't there, but her phone was lying right on the nightstand, buzzing. Face up. Unlocked. Screen lit bright in the dim room. A message preview flashed. Just one line. One sentence that made my stomach clench so hard I thought I might throw up. I miss you too. When can we meet again? No name, just a number. No picture. No context. But sometimes one sentence is enough. I stood there frozen, heart pounding like a hammer inside my chest. My first instinct wasn't rage, wasn't heartbreak. It was denial. I'm sure it's nothing, I whispered to myself. Probably a friend, a co-worker. I'm overreacting. But then the phone buzzed again. Another message, like a punch to the ribs. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. There was no misunderstanding that. No innocent explanation. My hands went cold, like all the blood drained out at once. I didn't open anything, didn't scroll, didn't snoop. Just stared at those words glowing on the screen, while my world tilted sideways. I felt like I was standing in the middle of the road, with headlights rushing toward me. Then I heard the shower, water running in the bathroom. She was home. That realization hit differently. It wasn't some distant suspicion anymore. It was right there, real, alive, steaming behind the bathroom door like the truth was bathing while I stood outside drowning. I picked up the phone. Not to open it, just held it. Just enough for her to know I'd seen it. The weight of that thing felt heavier than steel. When she came out wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, skin flushed from the heat, she froze the moment she saw me. Saw the phone in my hand. Saw my face. She didn't ask what I was doing. Didn't play dumb. Didn't snatch it away. Her eyes just closed. Slowly. Like someone bracing for impact. Laura, I said quietly, voice shaking though I tried to keep it steady. What's going on? She stood still for a second, maybe two, then sat down on the edge of the bed. Water ran down her arms and onto the carpet. She didn't care. She whispered, Mick, I think I made a mistake. Not apology. Not explanation. Just that word, mistake. A crack in the dam, but not enough to stop the flood building in my chest. I sat beside her. Not touching. Just close enough to feel the distance more than ever. Who is he? I asked. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just tired curiosity. A man who already knew the answer, but needed to hear it anyway. She didn't answer. Her silence was louder than confession. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. 20. Then she tried to reach for the phone. Slow, hesitant. Not to show me the truth. To hide it. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not violently, but quietly. Like a rope finally giving way after years of tension. I don't think I want to know, I said. Not because I didn't care, but because knowing would mean facing the reality I'd been avoiding. She started crying, soft at first, then shaking, saying she was confused, saying she didn't know what she wanted anymore, saying things people say when hearts drift far and they need somewhere to land. One sentence she muttered still sits heavy in me. Maybe we rushed into this life. Maybe we were too young. 15 years. A home. A shared life. And suddenly too young. That wasn't the worst part. Because later that week, I found something far more painful. Not just messages. Not just late nights. Something physical. Concrete. Undeniable. Something that confirmed everything I feared. And once I found it, the version of me who believed in us died right there. Because what I discovered next changed everything. After that night, something in the air between us changed. We moved around each other like strangers, renting the same space. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a waiting room where neither of us wanted to speak first. She slept facing the wall. I slept staring at the ceiling, counting fan blades as they turned, thinking about those messages. Every buzz of her phone felt like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. I kept asking myself, was it emotional? Physical? Was I too late to fix any of it? But I didn't confront her again. I needed proof. Not rumors. Not assumptions. Something real. Something undeniable. And the universe delivered. cruelly, cleanly. It was a Friday. I left work early after a coworker offered to cover my shift. I thought maybe I could surprise her, cook dinner, talk, try to bridge that widening silence. Her car wasn't in the driveway, but her purse was still on the kitchen counter. That meant she was close, probably jogging, or just stepped out. I went to grab laundry from our room. Halfway through folding, her nightstand drawer slid open when I bumped it. Not unusual, it always stuck. But something inside caught my eye. A small velvet pouch. Deep red. Nothing like her usual jewelry cases. I should have closed the drawer. Should have walked away. But betrayal has gravity. It pulls you closer, even when you don't want to see the impact. I opened it. Inside was a necklace. Men's necklace. Leather cord. Silver ring hanging from it. Engraved with initials that weren't mine. DR. I stared at those letters like they were carved into my chest instead of metal. A gift. A token. A reminder? I didn't know. But I knew enough. Under the necklace was a hotel key card. White plastic. Room number written in black marker on the back. 204. No logo. Just a room number. Like someone wanted to keep it discreet. My hand shook while holding it. My breath felt thick and heavy. That was the moment everything turned real. Undeniable. Permanent. I sat on the edge of the bed. The same bed we once laughed in, dreamed in, and felt something inside me collapse. 15 years, and I was holding proof she spent nights in another room with another man. I didn't cry. Not then. Tears come later, when shock melts into pain. In that moment, it was just numbness. Cold. Hollow. I said out loud. To the empty room. To myself. Maybe to God. Why wasn't I enough? That's a dangerous question. Not because it's wrong, but because it digs a hole you can fall into if you're not careful. But instead of anger, something surprising filled me, clarity. Sharp and slow like a blade dragged across glass. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Wasn't stress. Wasn't people change. She changed, just not with me. I put the necklace back carefully, exactly where it was. Closed the drawer. Wiped my palms on my jeans. My heartbeat finally returned. Too loud. Too fast. Too real. That night she came home smiling. Hair done. Perfume strong. Like she'd been somewhere she felt alive. She kissed my cheek. Warm. Soft. Familiar. And I felt nothing. She asked, long day. I looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't recognize the woman standing in front of me. Same face. Same voice. Different soul. I answered just one word. Yeah. She went upstairs to shower, humming a tune I didn't know. I stood alone in the kitchen with the oven light the only thing shining. Hands braced against the counter, trying not to break. And then anger came. Slow, controlled, quiet, not loud or wild. The kind that doesn't throw things or scream. The kind that plans. Because I knew from that moment I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight for someone already gone. If she wanted a different life, she could have it. But I wasn't going to stay and watch it. I decided to gather proof. To wait. To reclaim my dignity with silence instead of rage. She thinks I don't know. That thought kept me steady. Like a secret fire warming my spine. And the more she slipped away, the clearer my resolve became. I would leave. Not screaming. Not accusing. But with everything in order and nothing left unsaid. The night I found that necklace was the night Mick the husband died, and Mick the man stood up. And what I did next would change both of our lives forever. There's a moment in every heartbreak where pain stops screaming and starts whispering. Where tears dry up not because it doesn't hurt anymore, but because something inside you decides it's done being a victim. That moment hit me the morning after I found the necklace. I woke up before dawn. She was still asleep beside me, peaceful, unaware, clutching her pillow like a child. For a second, I almost let myself admire her the way I used to. Then I remembered DR Room 204, and whatever softness left in me hardened. I slid out of bed quietly and stood in the hallway, staring at the framed photos on the wall. Us at Niagara Falls. Us at the fair holding corn dogs and laughing. Us on our wedding day. Her eyes shining like I was the best man God ever put on this earth. I traced my finger over that picture and whispered, "Where did we lose each other?" But questions like that don't save you, decisions do. I made coffee, sat at the table, pulled out a yellow legal pad and started writing. Not a letter, not accusations, just plans. I listed assets, accounts, bills, what belonged to who. Not to punish her, to free us both cleanly. No yelling, no chaos, just clarity. Later that day, I took time off work. I drove to a storage unit, rented small space, and started moving little things out each day. Tools, clothes, my fishing gear, my father's old watch. Not enough to notice at once, but enough that when the day came, I could walk away without scrambling. I didn't spy on her, didn't follow her, didn't read messages or snoop through drawers again. I already had the truth. More truth wouldn't bring peace. Instead, I watched, observed, listened. She smiled at her phone more. She stayed late more. She cared more about outfits and gym sessions and perfume than home-cooked meals and our Sunday mornings. And strangely, the more distant she became, the calmer I felt, like I was watching rain from inside instead of standing out in it. Because now I held the secret. I know, and I'm letting go. One evening, she came home glowing, hair curled, lipstick just right, smelling like jasmine and possibility. She twirled her keys between her fingers and said, "I might go out with co-workers Friday. You don't mind, right?" I just smiled. "No, Laura. You go. Live your life." That sentence made her pause. She looked at me differently, like she heard something beneath my voice she couldn't name. Quiet revenge isn't loud. It's when you stop chasing attention, and they feel the emptiness where your love used to be. Over the next few weeks, I worked on myself. Gym mornings before work. New clothes that fit better than I expected. Started fishing again. Felt sun on my skin. Tasted fresh coffee at sunrise like it was the first time in years. Pain became fuel. And slowly, I rebuilt myself. Not around her, but around me. One night, we sat across from each other eating dinner in silence. She looked tired, not physically, but emotionally spent. Eyes distant, shoulders heavy. She said softly, "Mick, are we okay?" That was the first time she'd asked in months. A sign. A crack in her certainty. I took a slow breath, calm, measured, because this was the moment I had been walking toward. "We're surviving," I answered. "But surviving isn't living, Laura." Her fork stilled. She looked at me long, searching for something she couldn't find anymore. "I miss how we were," she whispered. And I whispered back, "Then why are we here now?" She didn't respond, because she didn't have an answer. That night, she reached for my hand in bed, maybe out of memory, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of fear. And I let her fingers touch mine for a second, just a second, then gently pulled away. Her breath hitched, not loud, but enough that I heard the crack in her heart. For the first time, she felt the distance instead of creating it. And that's when I knew I was ready. Ready to leave. Ready to choose myself. Ready to walk out with dignity, not bitterness. Asterisk, asterisk. Letting go wasn't an explosion. It was quiet sunrise after the storm. The day I finally packed my last bag. She came home early. Saw the suitcase by the door. Color drained from her face. "Mick, what's going on?" I looked at her, not with anger, not with love, but with peace. And I said the sentence that ended it all. "I'm done holding on to someone who let me go long ago." She stood frozen, not crying yet, but close. And I walked out. But little did I know, life was waiting with a twist I never saw coming. Because 1 year later, that same woman who let me go would call me, voice shaking, saying she needed me back. I didn't leave that house angry. I didn't slam doors or break dishes. I walked out calmly, quietly, like a man settling a debt with himself. We divorced peacefully. No courtroom brawls, no screaming matches. I signed the papers with a steady hand and an even steadier heart. We sold the house, split what needed splitting, and that was that. People expect heartbreak to be loud, but mine was silent, the kind you feel in your ribs when the room is too quiet. I moved into a small apartment near the river. Simple place. Second-hand couch, mismatched mugs, bed that creaked when I rolled over. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I spent that year rebuilding, not out of spite, but out of survival. Therapy sessions, long walks, learning how to cook more than scrambled eggs, fishing on weekends, joining a local book club even though I hadn't read anything longer than a work manual in years. And slowly, my life stopped feeling like an echo of what used to be. It became something new, something lighter. I laughed again, real laughter, the kind that shakes dust off the soul. A full year passed without Laura. No calls, no texts, just a few legal documents at the start, then silence as thick as winter snow. I thought that was the end of our story. I really did. Then one evening, late, around 10:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something, intuition, fate, God, who knows, made me swipe answer. I pressed the phone to my ear and heard breathing. Shaky, uneven, like someone holding back tears. Mick, her voice. Fragile, small, a voice I hadn't heard in 12 months. My heart dropped into my stomach. Not because I missed her, but because I wasn't expecting to ever hear her like that. I stayed quiet, waiting. She sniffed, tried to steady herself. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called, but I didn't know who else to talk to. My chest tightened. Not with love, with memory. 15 years doesn't vanish, just because papers say it should. I asked softly, "What's wrong, Laura?" And she broke, crying, the kind that shakes words apart. I made a mistake, Mick. The worst mistake of my life. She told me everything. After I left, the man she was seeing, Daniel Roberts, that DR, never wanted more than an affair. He didn't choose her. He ghosted her within months. Left her with promises and nothing to show for them. She tried dating again. Tried filling the emptiness I used to fill. Tried building a life without me. But instead of peace, she found loneliness waiting behind every corner. She said she missed the coffee I made her every morning. Missed the way I would hum old country songs while fixing the sink. Missed the safety of my arms around her at night. But the sentence that hit hardest was, "You never hurt me, Mick. I hurt me." I sat on my couch staring at the blank TV screen, letting her words land. She asked quietly, "Could we maybe try again? I've changed. I see things differently now." A long silence sat between us, heavy but honest. In the past, I would have run to her, begged for her back, clung to what we were. But that version of me died in room 204, next to a necklace I didn't buy. I swallowed, voice steady as stone. "Laura, I forgave you, but I didn't wait for you." She sobbed harder, not manipulation, not theatrics, genuine heartbreak. The weight of consequences finally showing up at her door. I continued gently. "I loved you for a long time, and maybe a part of me always will. But I learned to love myself too, and I won't go back to a place where I wasn't enough." She whispered, barely audible, "So this is really it?" I closed my eyes. Not out of pain, out of peace. "Yeah," I said. "This is it." Silence. Just breathing on both ends of the line. Two lives connected by history, but separated by growth. Before hanging up, she said one last thing. "I hope you find someone who sees your worth the first time." And I answered, "I already did. It was me." I ended the call, put the phone down, sat quietly, letting the moment settle like dust in sunlight. No triumph, no bitterness, just closure. 1 year ago, she said she didn't love me anymore. Tonight, she asked for another chance. And for the first time in a long time, I chose myself. After that call, I sat there for a long time. No TV, no music, just the hum of the refrigerator and the soft creak of that old apartment, as if the walls themselves were thinking with me. You'd expect a moment like that to feel victorious, like I won something. But real life isn't a movie. There was no dramatic fireworks of triumph. Just a slow, deep breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding for a year. The truth is, closure doesn't come with applause. It comes with stillness. A clean silence. One that doesn't hurt anymore. The next morning, I woke up early. Sky still dim. River fog hugging the water outside my window. I brewed coffee, sat on the balcony, and watched the world wake up. Birds calling, water rippling, sunlight stretching itself across the horizon like a sleepy child. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what was lost. I was thinking about what was ahead. I remember whispering to myself, maybe endings are really invitations. Life didn't change overnight, but it changed slowly, steadily, like seasons shifting one leaf at a time. I started going to the local diner on Sunday mornings. The waitress there, kind woman in her 50s named Margaret, always called me Han and poured coffee before I even asked. We'd talk about weather, fishing, her grandkids, nothing important, and yet everything that mattered. One afternoon, I took the old fishing rod and sat near the water, letting the quiet settle into my bones. A boy and his father were fishing a few feet away. The kid caught a tiny bluegill and screamed like he'd just won a trophy. The father laughed, ruffled his hair. I watched them, smiling, not jealously, not painfully, just softly, like someone watching life from the other side of grief. I started saying yes to more things: barbecues, weekend trips with coworkers, small adventures that never fit into my old life. I learned to cook pasta that didn't taste like rubber. I joined a photography class, just for the hell of it. Took long drives with the windows down and old country songs humming like old friends. And the funny part? I stopped checking my phone waiting for calls that would never come, because I didn't need them anymore. Some nights I'd sit with a book, feet propped on that creaky coffee table, thinking about Laura. Not with anger, not anymore. We were two people who loved once, lost later, and grew separately. She taught me something painful but necessary. Love isn't about who we lose. It's about who we find within ourselves. Months passed. Seasons changed. Leaves fell, then green returned. And one day, while walking out of the grocery store, I saw her, Laura. She wasn't dressed up. No perfume cloud, no camera-ready smile. Just a woman in a jean jacket holding a basket of apples, eyes tired but kinder somehow. Our eyes met. No anger, no coldness, just recognition. Two lives crossing quietly without collision. She walked over, brave but shaky. Said hello. Asked how I'd been. I told her honestly, better. Healing. Growing. Living a life I didn't know I could. She smiled, soft, sad, proud maybe. Then she said something I'll never forget. Thank you for not hating me. I nodded, and instead of all the words I could have said, I simply answered, I hope you find happiness, Laura. Truly. We parted like people who shared a chapter, not a war. I sat in my truck afterward with my hands on the wheel, letting the moment sink in. It didn't sting. It didn't shake me. It felt like finally closing a book I'd been holding too long. That night, I cooked dinner for myself, ate quietly, washed dishes while old blues music played low. And when I went to bed, I slept easy. No tossing, no haunting memories, no ghost of what used to be. Just peace. The kind you earn, the kind you grow into, the kind you learn to give yourself when life doesn't go the way you planned. And that peace tasted better than any reunion ever could. If you've made it with me all the way to this part, pull up a chair closer. Because what I learned through this whole journey isn't just about marriage or betrayal. It's about finding your worth when you thought you'd lost it. See, when that woman I loved looked me in the eyes a year before and said, I don't love you anymore, I thought my story was over. I thought those words were a period at the end of my life, as I knew it. But sometimes what feels like an ending is just a comma, a pause, a breath before a new sentence begins. For months, I walked around like half a man, the other half still living in memories, still holding on to moments that no longer existed outside my head. There were nights I missed her. Nights I questioned if walking away made me weak or cold or stubborn. Nights I held my pillow a little tighter because the bed was wide and empty. But healing isn't a straight road. It twists, dips, rises again. Some mornings you wake up lighter. Some mornings you drag yourself through the day like molasses. But you keep walking. You keep breathing. You keep living. People asked me why I didn't go back when she finally called, crying, apologizing, saying she made a mistake. Some even said I should forgive, try again, rebuild. And forgiveness? I gave it. But returning? That's a different thing. Forgiveness is setting the bird free. Going back is climbing back inside the cage with it. A year changed us. It broke us apart, shaped us differently. I wasn't the man who once tolerated emotional crumbs and called it love. I wasn't desperate for her attention or validation anymore. I had built a life on ground that didn't shake beneath me. I remember a night a few months after that grocery store encounter. I was sitting on my balcony with a blanket around my shoulders, sipping warm tea, listening to crickets. I thought about how once I believed I couldn't breathe without her. But there I was, breathing just fine. Better than fine, honestly. Peaceful, whole, renewed. And I realized something. Losing someone you love can be the beginning of finding yourself. If you're listening right now and you're going through something like this, heartbreak, betrayal, abandonment, let me talk to you directly, one human to another. You are not unlovable. You are not disposable. Someone walking away from you doesn't erase your worth. It reveals theirs. Sometimes life shakes you hard just to show you what was loose. Pain teaches. Loss sharpens. And strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's just choosing to get out of bed one more morning. I didn't know my own strength until silence forced me to hear myself. Today, I cook meals for one and enjoy every bite. I fish alone on calm mornings and find peace in the ripples. I buy fresh flowers for my table not because someone else will see them, but because I deserve beauty too. And maybe someday I'll meet someone new. Someone who chooses me fully. Someone who doesn't make me wonder if I'm enough, because I'll know I am before she even says it. But even if I don't, I'm okay. Because I finally learned to sit with myself and feel comfortable in my own company. Sometimes love returns when it realizes what it lost. But sometimes the stronger story is the one where you don't return with it. Folks, that's my truth. My story. My lesson earned through fire. So that's my story, folks. If it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far Uncle Mickle's voice travels. Because if you're still here with me, listening, breathing quietly on the other side of the screen, let me leave you with one final thought, one sentence that carried me through the hardest nights. Sometimes walking away is the only way to return to yourself. Uncle Mickle.